first off, we will be streaming Fallout Equestria tomorrow at 9 p.m. like we do every week. And we will also be streaming our character auditions this afternoon. Lastly, if you want to pick up a copy of Fallout Equestria Dead Tree the book, it is available. Link is in the description below. Now, on to the shenanigans. I wanted to call this a review. Can't quite call it that. I haven't finished the entire game. What do I mean by that? So I have a level 38 Slayer. I'm on the last section of the game. But I haven't had a chance to play the Empire Soldier or the Wood Elf Scout really myself. I've heard other people play them. And the things I'm informed, they're not great. But I'm informed it is the same for all the classes. As you can see, I can't even rename them. So I can't even tell these apart unless I click on them and load in. So if you have multiple Slayers, well, have fun with that. So we're going to jump in. As you can see, I'm playing on hard. But I'm going to go over the game real quick. So from what I can tell, each class is rigged to the same weapons that they basically start with. If you're playing the Dwarf Slayer, you're going to have 2 axes. Your equipment's going to vary in type and design, and that's kind of cool, which means your look is going to change, but for the most part, you're going to be using the same weapons with the same attack speed, with the same similar movement speeds. Now, next thing about this that I noticed, this is important. This means that limited customization is really truly available, and the game lacks a sort of continuity past the in-game material. You really don't feel like playing past that point, because there's not really much of a point. Once you hit level 50 and you've completed the main game, you can grind for gear and equipment, but you're grinding. I understand this is a mid-budget game, but they're charging full AAA budget prices. I would cite that against them. Now, I know making games is expensive, but the fact of the matter is that there are some glaring issues, and we're going to get to those. This feels like, but we're going to start with the equipment system. With the last note of the equipment system, is this feels like Warhammer Fantasy. Your guys look like the art style, the character looks, the way the characters talk, all of that fits Warhammer Fantasy. 100%. I can't argue. I can't. No debate. This is a Warhammer game. Enemy type, however, let's get to talking. So first off, you never feel super powerful. Like, yeah, you're mowing through hundreds of enemies, but any of them can kill you. Even the little Nurglings that are like one-shots to most characters can form Nurglingtron and kill you. The issue is they become repetitive. Very, very repetitive. There is no discernible difference as far as how they act and what they do for damage or status effects or anything between Slaaneshi demons, Nurgle demons, and Khorne demons and Zing demons. They all rush towards you. They all try to hit you with their weapons. The Slaaneshi demons will ricochet away to try to make you come after them. The Khorne demons do more damage, and the Nurgle demons regenerate. The Slaanesh demons apply stun effects. That's it. You have all of them have cultists. All the cultists are exactly the same. There's a ranged cultist, there's a melee cultist, there's a cultist champion. They're literally just a color palette switch. There are giant guard dogs that I thought, oh, this is really cool. This is actually a hard enemy, and it's a regular enemy. No, it's actually a mini-boss or a preliminary boss enemy that only appears 5 times. And they're all exactly the same. They all have the same ring that appears under your character that auto deals damage. They all have the same stun effects. They all have the same attacks. They're exactly the same. They're just color palette swap. And this happens over and over again. You're expecting the enemies to be drastically different, and it's a color palette swap. The Khorne Chaosbane, the Nurgle Chaosbane, and the Slaanesh Chaosbane all act exactly the same. The only difference is the special attack the Slaaneshi gets is, instead of a stun, is a pull that pulls you in. And it still stuns you if it hits you afterwards. The difference between the enemies is too little, and the enemy models it's palette swaps. Like, the cultists and the Chaosbanes and the giant chaos demon dogs, they're palette swaps. The Slaaneshi Cavalry and the Khorne Cavalry act exactly the same. They charge up, they have a bunch of hit points that you have to hack through, and they hurt. And they charge you repeatedly and try to knock you over. They look cool. But this becomes an issue later when, once you've mastered how to beat a certain type of enemy, it applies to every type of that enemy that shows up. They don't have any variety to them that makes it more difficult. So, enemy variety is... You're playing an ARPG, you've got to have like a fuckload of enemy variety to make it work properly. Even a mid-budget like Grim Dawn has hundreds of different enemy types. Hundreds of different enemy types. That all have distinctly, like, even in the beginning when you're facing like zombies and giant insects, like, and gnolls, it's 3 different things that are really, really different to fight. And they went out of their way to make all of the enemies have different vulnerabilities and different capabilities, and make Grim Dawn genuinely a difficult game where you're constantly having to think. And Grim Dawn is half the price. Chaosbane? Nope. It's smash into the enemy, make sure your character build has enough regeneration between your abilities and your natural regeneration from equipment, and rely on mobility. Like, mobility wins in Chaosbane, and it's one of the silliest things in the world, but all you have to do is just play keep away, and you will kill everything. The gameplay is satisfying. I'm not knocking that it's not satisfying. It is fun to run around and kill stuff. But without the variety of enemies and variety of circumstantial situations that you would experience in, say, Vermintide, which is a very similar 4-person concept, which I'm getting to that 4-person concept here soon, it doesn't jive. Because you see an enemy, you know you're playing a top-down action RPG, you know what that enemy does, you now know how to beat that enemy. And all you have to do is just follow steps A through C, and that enemy dies. The enemies do not have some sort of combo power or combination of powers. They're just mindless assault drones hitting you over and over again. Visually, the game and combat looks amazing, but in fact, most of the combat is hold down button, hold down button, hold down button, hit special ability, done. Which for about an hour is entertaining, and then you want to go play something else. You'll come back to it. You will come back to it. And then you want to go play something else. The level of blood, gore, and guts, however, the detail to artwork to make every place feel different, the detail to the enemies to make it look like you're eviscerating things, to make it look like, not feel like, but look like you're just eviscerating hundreds of different enemies, beautifully done. Beautifully done. But the enemy types, again, like, it starts blending together because you look up and you go, am I fighting an Ungor or a cultist? I just see Ungor and cultists, and they do the exact same thing. Either they run up to me with a shield and try to beat me down, or they sit back with a bow or axes or magic spells and try to hit me, and then there's no variety. And, like, it's not like Diablo, where there are mages in Diablo 1 that summon walls of fire you have to work around. Or like the first time you encounter the butcher and you crap your pants. even to this day, playing Diablo 1, when you first encounter the butcher and you hear fresh meat, Diablo 3 not so much so. Diablo 1, it is a bone crapping moment because you realize, oh, that one talks. Here, not so much. But I am going to get to something that they actually do very well. Environments. Now, the maps are repetitive. Straight up. I was on the same freaking map 4 times this afternoon on stream. For 4 different quests. There's no excuse for that. We thought Dragon Age 2 learned that lesson. It hasn't. However, the visual effects of the map are beautiful. When you're fighting through Prague, the destruction and blood effigies to Khorne, the rising tide of chaos that feels like Cthulhu is going to come out of the ground with a Khornite skull and just devour you. Beautifully done. Even like the way it pulses and rhythms in the sewers with the infected rot of Nurgle that you just want to cut out like a freaking need to be amputated gangrene arm. Great. The city fighting areas in Null, again, very well designed. You feel like you're in Null, whereas Prague, you feel like you're in Prague. 2 very different cities that they could have just made, cookie cutter, and they didn't. And it definitely, even without the Nurgle parts and the Khorne parts in the 2 cities, they feel like 2 different cities. In Null, you see tall structures and cannons and ramparts of castles, and you see heavily packed buildings together, civilian houses. You see sewer grates and all this stuff, and then in Prague, you see abandoned wagon carts and town wells, and the houses are spread out. And in Null, the roads are not straight, and in Prague, they're kind of more organized. So you actually genuinely feel like you're in 2 different cities. Great job, but I still can't forgive you for using the same snow map on Chapter 3 for 4 different quests, and then using the exact same we walked it. Exact same map on Chapter 3 when you're going in after the Slaneshi cultists. I can't forgive you for that one. That's completely unacceptable. Speaking of story and chapters, writer Michael Lee, Black Library author, did a good job. The voice acting is superb. It's 100% wonderfully superb. Now I'm going to remind you that Michael Lee is the same person who wrote Ganache, a bunch of the Wolves and Crimson Fist Space Marine books, the Gate of Souls, the Reaper of Souls. Like, this guy's been around, and he knows how to write Warhammer Fantasy, and he knows how to write Warhammer 40k. And he did a damn good job. And the voice actors, whether it be random lines in the middle of combat all the way up to the massive, over-the-top story moments, did a fantastic job. However, the idiot programmers yeah, I'm calling you idiots. You ruined part of it for me, because there are sections of the story where the characters' audio dialogue lines are missing, or what's being displayed on screen is not what's being said, and therefore, as it scrolls past, I'm now reading one thing, hearing another thing, and lost in confusion, and my immersion is broken instantly. I actually just had to take the audio line separately into a separate file and just read them manually. You fucked it up. Like, straight up. You guys, that's 101. Even me operating a YouTube video, I have to do that correctly. And you're being paid big budget dollars, and I feel sorry to these voice actors. Because those little screw-ups right there are game-breaking as far as story immersion goes. Then we get into, well, the boss design. It's lazy. Every boss has 3 phases, marked off by 3 blips at their health bar. So you have to go through their same health bar 3 times. The thing is, they don't add more attacks or change their behaviors in any significant way. They might change their pattern, but all their behaviors are exactly still the same. The Nurgle boss has a throw-up attack that covers the arena that you have to get behind pillars. He has a, I'm going to sit on my throne and slash my sword at you, along, and it's going to break the ground along you and stun you. He summons minions, and he calls down parts of the ceiling. He does all of this during phase 1. Phase 2, it just speeds up how quickly the phases pass. And while parts are falling from the ceiling, he has a cage around him that makes him invulnerable. Okay? Corn Boss. Corn Boss, first off, has an unblockable, undodgeable attack that removes about a third of your health. So just straight up out the gate, if at any time you have less than a third of your health and he goes for his big jump, you're dead. There's no way to dodge it. There's no way to block it. Even using invulnerability on the dwarf. Power I have to unlock in the quote-unquote God skill tree. Does not prevent the damage or the pushback effect. Or the stun effect. So he just has a shot at you that's just, here's a third of your hit points gone. The boss then proceeds to chase you around the arena at a slow-ass pace, occasionally jumping at you, and all you have to do is play keep away while you make a ranged attack. And he dies. He summons minions. Oh, look, we're getting a repetitive thing here. That but that during the third phase are infinite. Oh, look, just like Nurgle. He shrinks the arena. Oh, look, just like Nurgle shrinks the safe area, he shrinks the safe area of the arena too. That's stupid. And he dies relatively quickly with no particular, vulnerability period or anything that you really have to think about or deal with. Keeper of Secrets. And this had me cussing today. Keeper of... Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot this part. By the way, the Corn Boss has a rage bar. So you're on a DPS timer. The Slanesh boss also has a rage timer. But it's a secret one. It took me actually digging into the game's code to figure out how this worked. So on the Keeper of Secrets boss, first off, there are 3 pools that you don't want to step in. Because you either take lots of damage or you get a debuff. Second, she has ranged attacks that cover the entire arena that you're playing Bullet Hell, the ARPG. Followed by ranged attacks that just bounce around, and if one of them gets a glancing blow, it does damage. If it actually passes through your character, it stuns you instantly. She has a aura attack that if you're standing outside the aura, she inflicts curse on you. Curse causes you to take continuous damage. Curse has no time limit. Curse can be stacked infinite number of times. Meaning that if you don't stand inside the damage aura and beat her into melee submission to prevent her from casting Curse, the Keeper of Secrets kills you every time. the two ranged characters must stand inside of a death aura under melee attack to prevent it. And basically, it took me that long to figure out that all I have to do against the Keeper of Secrets, by the way, is instead of dodging any of her attacks, bothering to worry about anything she throws at you, as soon as she steps out of the pool that she regenerates in every once in a while, that you have to stop the regeneration, as soon as she steps out of that pool, you bum rush her and just beat her down. No tactics, no thoughts or ideas, no second instinct. When she's sitting there doing her little area of effect bullet attack, you just stand perfectly still, take the hits, and throw your attack weapon and throw your ranged weapon at her over and over again. They have cheap attacks and cheap deaths. And it's literally the Corn Boss is designed to fuck melee classes, and the Keeper of Secrets is designed to hate ranged classes. Took me 13 hours of gameplay to get that far. To realize all that. So, the boss's mechanics were unclear until I dug through the code. Their design is lazy because all of them are 3-phase bosses. All of them have basically a melee phase, a ranged phase, and a special attack that is designed to instantly kill you. And all of them you just wear down. You just win by wearing down and avoiding damage. It literally made it where playing the Dwarven Slayer, the class that you would think would be designed to rush in and just stay in melee constantly, which it's not. There's no Dwarven Slayer ability that regenerates you by killing. Something that should have been very basic and very straightforward. A Berserker class that regenerates by killing doesn't exist. You have to dodge attacks like everybody else. Playing the Dwarven Slayer and just switching to the ability to just rush around and kite by just using the charge ability to kite over and over again. There's nothing that could touch me or hurt me. I just sit there and kite, and then I realized that the entire game is designed around using range classes. Which brings me into the laziness of character design. There are character builds, yes. You have a certain amount of points, you have a certain number of skills you can use for those points. You can switch it up by having master of this and like apprentice of that. You have basic attacks, gods, you have all these different types of skills. And it boils down to mobility is king. Just stay away from your enemies. Do ranged combat attacks unless the enemy actually requires you to close to melee. And you win. That's it. That's the entire game. I spent 5 hours just shooting through. Like, wholeheartedly on cruise mode with the Dwarven Slayer. Once I realized I didn't actually have to sit there and melee things. I could just use the dash attack and leave a trail of fire. And every character class has some sort of mobility ability that leaves behind some damage aura or some damage spot. And you can do that and kill the hordes of chaos who are just trying to chase you. Running away is the most effective tactic in the entire game. On top of this, I'll give you an example of something I'm truly disappointed in. No character has two-handed weapon. Melee. They either dual wield or they're sword and shield or no melee weapon. And in the Warhammer Fantasy Universe, one of the most effective units ever to exist are Slayers with great weapons. Because they run in and they smash through everything. Fact is, as I said at the start, you will have the same weapon that you start with. You'll either have a staff, a bow and arrow, a set of axes, or shield or sword and board. depressing. The characters are all modeled with and it makes it where you don't have to do any more character animations than the bare minimum to get that one weapon type down. Character animation is great, but the complete lack of variety means that every time I pick up a weapon for the Slayer, it's just going to be an axe. Every time I pick up a weapon for the Soldier, it's just going to be a sword or a mace. Every time I pick up a weapon for the Elf, it's going to be a bow. And they do a good job varying up the appearance of the characters using their armor and costumes. But at the end of the day, they're still just generic Warhammer armor and costumes. The same type of costumes I saw in Total War Warhammer. Same type of costumes I saw in Warhammer Vermintide. Except for Vermintide actually does a better job of it, with a lot more variety to it. You know what's bad than when Vermintide can play better fashion than an ARPG that should be easier to do. But it's the exact same units, exact same looks that I saw in Total War Warhammer 3 years ago. It's the exact same thing I saw in Vermintide 2 years ago and last year. Seen it, done it. You had no creativity with this. I'm going to criticize you for it. Lastly, and the last massive criticisms I'm going to give are the actual bugs. One, multiplayer. It doesn't work. If you have not completed the same story part, you can't join. If you've completed the same story part, you can't join. The only time you can play multiplayer is at the end game. You can't help someone speed through a character. You can't, that means that if I want to start one of the other classes over again, I have to do it myself. What? It doesn't find online matches. It doesn't... I actually made myself online the entire time I was on stream and no one could join or did join. I get that I haven't finished the game, but why the fuck do I have to finish the game to play multiplayer? This game screams, play together. It's a basic feature. I'm irritated also at the shop. The shop system is... it's lazy. You donate your items to get reputation, which gives you free extra stuff that is permanent character progression. Money in this game is used exclusively for resurrecting. And the end game is boss rush. The end game is endurance, and with no raids or anything of that nature, with no final end game confrontation. I'm beyond frustrated. I'm beyond frustrated. There are also times where randomly enemies glitch. I'm sitting here, mouse cursor held on them, does no damage. Won't attack them. I have to move away from them and then turn around and use a ranged attack because my regular melee attack simply will not attack them. Even after hitting them with a ranged attack and it registering that I've hit them, it still refuses to let me attack them. So overall, after 13 hours, I'm disappointed. there's apparently supposed to be 3 DLCs and a new quest. Okay. Maybe. I'm going to stream some more of this and see if this first impression still stands after I've streamed it, more of it and possibly played it offline, or if this first impression is wrong and I need to do a proper review. But at present, I would tell you, don't buy. Even at 50% off, you can still get Grim Dawn for the same price.
It's done, elf.
Which is a better game.
Now, there is still difficult.
Even at 50% off, you can get the base Diablo 3 for free, which is a better game. Much as I hate Blizzard, gotta give them credit. Diablo 3 is still fun. I still prefer Diablo 2 and Diablo 1, where I can have like 50 abilities, especially Diablo 1, where I can cross-class with the same character, but that's another story.
You must descend into the lair of the chaos beasts.
However,
and
I would not buy this game. Not in its current state. I'm going to finish the game and see if that changes. And I may be doing a full review. But as of today, on release day, having played the game for 13 hours, 4 days before it released, this is a do not buy. A hard do not buy. There are better games out there, and I'm so sorry to the people who bought this to play it with me. I'm so very sorry. If you can get a refund, I would get it. If you can't, again, I'm so very sorry. I get that it's still fun for a time, but I don't foresee this being the promised long-term game that it should be. It merely boils down to a very heavy Diablo clone. And it infuriates and makes me sad. This has been Fiaura the Tank Girl. I will see you guys later today for our tryouts, i.e. auditions, for our Pathfinder D&D game set at Redhurst. Those of you who don't know what Redhurst is, it's the Academy of Wizards. It is D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, Harry Potter. And we're apparently going to be the class of freaks, because most of us appear to not be playing humanoid characters or straight up humans or anything in the PHP. I was not prepared for tonight. And then on tomorrow night, we will be playing Fallout Equestria tabletop at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until 2 a.m. like we do every week. And as usual, hopefully we will be putting on a fantastic show for you guys. In the meantime, good night, everyone.